I love Pop-Tarts. The brown sugar cinnamon is
that's what I was going to say. There's also frosting-free ones.
Why? Why would you do a frosting-free one?
I know. They just look naked and weird.
This is On Nutrition, a podcast from Mayo Clinic where we dig into the latest nutrition trends and research to help you understand what's health and what's hype. I'm Tara Schmidt, a registered dietitian with Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. This episode, fueling exercise. Sports nutrition is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There are all sorts of products and pathways to help athletes reach their next level of endurance. But you don't have to eat 10,000 calories a day like Michael Phelps when he was training for the Olympics. Whether you're running a marathon, pursuing body recomposition, or just trying to get into the gym more regularly, there are ways to cater your diet to produce the best and healthiest results. Our guest is Alex Larson, an athlete, registered dietitian, and founder of Alex Larson Nutrition, a performance nutrition coaching company that helps endurance athletes curate simple and flexible eating patterns so they can concentrate on their competitions.
Hi, friend.
Hi. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
I'm so glad that you're here. I love how our paths have just crossed in all different ways. We had no kids, just dogs when I met you, and now there's a lot of kids and still a lot of dogs.
So many kids. Yes.
You are now working with athletes of all different levels.
And usually endurance athletes specifically. Runners, triathletes, cyclists. Those are kind of like my people. The longer, the better is what I say.
The crazier, the better is what I would say.
When they tell me they want to swim the English Channel or if they want to like do a 100-mile or an Ironman, I'm like, yes.
Bring it on, baby. So what are they seeking you out for? You're a dietitian. But is it meal plans? Is it supplement guidance?
It's a little bit of everything. I divide it into two main buckets of work. The first bucket would be your day-to-day nutrition. So when you have a really busy lifestyle and you want to train a whole bunch, like day in and day out, people struggle with how to know how much to eat and when to eat because they hear all these different things on the internet and they have a really hard time translating what that means for themselves. And so I kind of help bridge that gap, taking all of the science and making it really easy for them to fuel their endurance lifestyle, but also being able to live just a normal, active life. And then the other bucket of work is fueling the workouts themselves, especially when you're doing high volume most days of the week. It's a lot. And so you need to be able to fuel that well, plus also prep yourself for an endurance style race. So I help navigate gels or chews or hydration mixes in your bottles and getting all the carbs in so that you can do all of those activities and not feel like a zombie the rest of the day.
When does the general population need to start caring about nutrition specifically for exercise? How seriously does someone who works out 45 minutes a few times a week need to take nutrition compared to someone who's training for a marathon?
Yeah. There's a point. I feel like if you are someone that recreationally likes to be active and you just have a goal of being more fit, that's just as important as someone who's running a marathon. So I have a very good friend, a couple months back, she sent me this message. She follows me on Instagram, even though she doesn't train for any events. And she's like, thank you for being so relentless with your messaging. I finally got around to adjusting my nutrition around my workouts. She would get up early and weightlift in her basement and then walk to work. And she said, all I did was add a bowl of cereal before my workout. Super simple, because she knew that she had to have a little bit of fresh carbs in herself after fasting all night while sleeping. And she's like, holy moly, I have so much more power in my weightlifting. I'm getting immensely stronger. And over the course of, I want to say it was almost 6 to 8 to 12 months, she lost a little bit of weight. Not a ton, probably 5 pounds on the scale. But I think body composition wise, she got a lot leaner just by adding a little bit of carbs before her workout, having better performance in that workout, and then having that post-workout recovery breakfast. Those little things, consistently doing them over time, made a huge difference for her. Just a bowl of cereal. And cereal can be demonized so much. People are like, oh, sugary cereal, that's bad for you. But no, at a certain point with your training, timing it out right, using it for what it can help benefit you. There's no good food or bad food, but let's use it for a specific purpose.
And we also have to keep in mind, you and I see people of all different shapes and sizes and ages and stages of life and income levels. And guess what's pretty darn nutritious, but also really accessible? Cereal.
And it doesn't go bad in a week like a bag of spinach.
Or end up in the garbage.
I used up my whole bag of spinach yesterday, and I was so proud of myself. Like,
I just dumped it all into soup.
that's what I did. I put it into some soup.
I was like, this goes back in my fridge. It's not coming out alive. Let's talk about different nutrient needs before and after a workout. So we know we have our macronutrients, of course, but we also have electrolytes. We have hydration. Do we need creatine? Can you give us sports nutrition 101?
So before a workout, carbs are king. If you're going to take anything from this podcast, that's our body's preferred source of energy. It's a very quick source of energy. It's the first thing that gets digested and absorbed. And that energy is going to go into your workout and help you feel really great and have a really great performance. Typically, you want to have pretty easy to digest carbs. You don't want to be having some really fibrous, whole grain, heavy duty carbs. Fiber is great, but it's not really your friend a lot of times before a workout because it's just going to slow down digestion. Protein, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do a workout. I'm going to have a protein shake beforehand. Save it for afterwards.
After, you guys.
After, don't have a protein shake before. You can certainly have some protein beforehand, but it's not really going to help performance. A little bit of protein beforehand, especially like early on in the morning, if you have been fasting all night long. For me personally, if I just have a whole bunch of carbs right away in the morning, I get kind of that blood sugar rush and I feel a little sick. So I will have a little bit of protein, but not a ton. And I try and keep it pretty low fat as well, because protein and fat will slow down digestion, just like fiber will. Hydration is very important. I find 16 to 24 ounces of water, around a half a liter, somewhere in there, is just nice to go into your workout not dehydrated, especially, again, if you're having an early morning workout. And if it's going to be longer than an hour, or if it's going to be very hot and humid, electrolytes are not a bad idea, especially if you find that you're kind of a salty sweater. When your sweat dries on your face, if you feel kind of gritty, like you feel that salt on there, or if when your clothes dry, you see those white salt stains, the crystals, that might be an indicator you're losing quite a bit of salt. So having some electrolytes even before the workout can help just make sure you're not losing too much during that workout and being behind the rest of the day, because you can kind of feel a little off if your electrolytes get wonky. If your workout is longer than 75 minutes, 90 minutes, I would try and have a little bit of carbs during that. If you're going even longer than that, you might need quite a bit more. And then post-workout, people hear about this golden window of time.
I've heard of this, yes.
Yes, there's like 45 minutes to an hour, this golden window where you have to refuel. And the reason why we call it this golden window is because our body is primed to start recovery. It will recover at the most efficient rate in the hour, hour and a half, 2 hours range, especially with carbohydrates. So our body stores carbohydrates in our muscle, a little bit in our liver, but mostly in our muscle as glycogens. We call it muscle glycogen. Think of it as like a battery. And in that hour window, our body will fill the battery the quickest pace, the most efficient. So if you are someone, especially an endurance athlete, that maybe you're doing a 2 a day, maybe you're working out in the morning and then again in the evening, maybe you're working out today, but you have a really big workout tomorrow. That hour window of reloading muscle glycogen stores, you might as well take advantage of that so that you can go into that next workout feeling really great. If maybe the next day is a rest day or just a light workout, not as huge of a deal to like reload those glycogen stores. It can be a little more lax, but something that I notice is if I don't get some fuel in after the workout in that 2-hour mark, I will start to feel really poorly. Like my energy levels will just tank. I'm like, oh, I feel awful right now. Shoot, I didn't refuel when I should have. I blame my kids. They got me distracted. So that post-workout snack or meal can really help you like energy-wise the rest of the day. It can set you up for success in the next workout. And the things that you want to look for are the carbohydrates. Like I say, you want to reload glycogen stores. And then once your muscles are fed, they're ready to rebuild and repair. So you want to have that protein in it. If you want to do a protein shake, you certainly can. You don't have to. You could just do real food. If it's a breakfast, you could do like scrambled eggs and a wrap with some cheese and on the go, like heading to work. You could do, I really love that Fairlife milk. That's a little bit higher protein. The chocolate milk is delicious. So if you're really not feeling like eating any solid foods, drinking some of that with maybe some applesauce or some fruit or a little bit of oatmeal. There's lots of things that you can mix and match. Just get yourself some nutrition. If you're not having a meal right away, have a snack. And then within 2 hours after a hard workout, try and have a meal. And rehydrate, of course. Like that should be always standard. Replenishing any fluid losses, electrolytes, especially if it was like a sweat fest of a workout, to really just set you up to feeling good the rest of the day.
I feel like creatine is very trendy right now.
It is having a moment. It is. It was cauliflower and now it's kind of cheese, and there's always going to be some trendy food. But I will say creatine is probably one of the most researched supplements on the market, like decades of research.
Yes.
You can get creatine through your diet alone, but it's usually not enough. So doing a supplement can offer many benefits. It's a very safe supplement as long as you're taking the recommended dose. Usually they say 3 to 5 grams of creatine a day. It's not just performance and recovery benefits and muscle gain benefits, but also they're seeing improvements cognitively as well with memory. There was one study where they saw it improved symptoms of depression. I think for women, they're afraid that it's going to cause them to bulk up like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's not true.
I actually started taking creatine July of 2024. And the first few weeks that I would take it, I would drink it after a workout. And I would envision in my head, I was going to wake up the next morning just like swole, like this bodybuilder. And it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know why I thought that. It just was this association with creatine. That's not true. You have to do a massive amount of strength training and adjust your nutrition and be in that calorie surplus basically to build all of that muscle. So I'm team creatine personally. I think for especially women, because we tend to have lower creatine stores than men do, I think that we can get even more benefit out of women because that muscle mass as we age is so important. And then for plant-based athletes or anyone that eats more vegetarian, vegan diets, your creatine levels are going to be much lower because you're not getting any through meat sources. And creatine supplement is vegan. It's plant-based. So it would be obviously a lot more benefit for them as well.
I also think body composition is trending. And it always has been in the fitness world.
I mean, weight loss is never going to go away. It's
Yeah.
always going to be not an obsession, but it's going to be a priority for people.
It's an obsession for sure.
Yeah.
So we've got body recomp, which is often losing fat, gaining muscle. How do these nutrients play a role? And is this done through diet, through the gym, a little bit of both, I'm assuming? Do people come to you wanting to do, as they call it, body recomp?
I have 2 other dietitians that work with me. We're a team. And we have usually around 60 to 70 athletes between the 3 of us. I would say like 90% have a body composition goal, which includes weight loss. But when they come to me, they're like, I want to lose weight. I'm like, well, what you really mean is you want to reduce your body fat percentage and maintain, if not gain some muscle, like look leaner. Sometimes for them, it's aesthetic, but a lot of times it's like, I'm carrying around this extra weight up a hill, or it's a lot more work to carry this
You're
around.
running with a backpack on of weight.
But here's the thing is when they try to lose weight, they notice they can't complete their workouts as prescribed. Their energy levels tank, their hunger level skyrockets, and it can only last so long. And then they kind of go back to what they did before. So they get really frustrated. So that's part of our role, is helping them strategically fuel themselves so that they can get themselves leaner, see some weight loss, maintain the strength and muscle, and still be able to train well, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
We have them take a food journal so we can monitor things because we don't want to put them at risk for low energy availability, for any injuries or illnesses. We want to make sure health is always our top priority. So making sure they're getting adequate protein consistently, that helps very much with recovery, especially when they're in a pretty high volume training program. And making sure that their protein is spread out throughout the day. We want them to especially get plenty of protein in the morning and midday, where most athletes just don't eat enough at breakfast and lunch. The busy work day, they will kind of skimp on things. And then when they get home, they'll have this massive dinner and they kind of graze throughout the evening. And that actually hinders body composition. So we try and front load the nutrition early on in the day when they're more active. And then by the time they get to dinner in the evening, they're full. Their hunger feels regulated and they can relax, go to bed, and then start the whole day over and feel great in those daylight hours. So timing of things, but also making sure that they're getting good meal composition. They're getting enough of what they need to support their needs. We will have them at a bit of a calorie deficit just because in order to see their weight come down, but it's not like a massive calorie deficit. Let's say your maintenance calories is around like 2,000 calories based off of your age, weight, height, activity level. We would have you below that to help encourage the weight to come down. But we would make sure that your workouts were fueled very well so that you still perform really well. And then you're not going into the rest of the day behind on nutrition and struggling with this crazy hunger. If you've ever trained for something, you know what kind of hunger I'm talking about. It's insatiable. It's kind of annoying because you're like, I just ate 2 hours ago. And so we help regulate that appetite with a good structure in meals and snacks to support what they're doing, but also doing it in a way like having still opportunities where we can really bring that body composition down.
When it comes to fueling before a workout, remember, carbs are king. Fiber or protein, on the other hand, can slow down digestion, so save that protein shake for after. Make sure to hydrate, possibly with electrolytes before, especially if you're a salty sweater. And take in some carbs during your workout if your session reaches 75 to 90 minutes. When you're all done, there's a golden window of 45 minutes to an hour to refuel. That's when your body recovers at the most efficient rate. It's particularly helpful to eat during that window to keep up your energy for later in the day. When it comes to body recomposition, creatine is a great supplement, particularly for women who want to gain muscle. And make sure to eat consistently during the day. Scatter your protein throughout breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now that we understand the basics, let's get into the nuances of sports nutrition, like why running may trigger a certain rumbling in your tummy.
There are a lot of trendy phrases out there, especially related to sports nutrition and exercise, etc. I'm going to name a few if you can explain what they mean and if they're important or not. Let's talk about cheat days. Do you hate that phrase?
I do so much.
I knew you would.
Well, here's why. First of all, there's no like good or bad foods, right? Like food does not hold moral value. And so when you think of a cheat meal or a cheat day, it could be something like, I don't know, a candy bar or a donut. Those things actually in the right setting would not be like a bad thing. They would be a great thing. There's a time and place for everything. And I think
let's not assign morals to inanimate objects.
Yeah, exactly. Pop-Tarts are a good example. People are like, oh, that's like junk food.
You are the Pop-Tart queen. I know.
I love Pop-Tarts. The brown sugar cinnamon is like...
yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's also frosting-free ones.
Why? Why would you do a frosting-free one?
I know. They just look naked and weird.
They are one of our favorite pre-workout fuels because there's a little bit of protein and fat in them, but mostly carbohydrates. They're really easy to like travel with. They're shelf-stable. They're so convenient. They taste great. And this is not me saying like you should have a Pop-Tart every single day, but there's a time and place and a frequency that it would make sense for an athlete. If you were someone that lives a very sedentary lifestyle, then you don't need all of that carbs and sugar, and Pop-Tarts would not be an appropriate thing on a regular basis. So for unique situations, those types of foods that would be seen as like cheat foods or cheat meals or cheat days just don't apply. I want people to eat in a way that feels good for them, that they have a good relationship with food in their body. I want food to be someone's like ally. It's their greatest training partner. It's one of life's greatest pleasures. I feel like, Tara, you and I are dietitians because we love food.
We love food.
I love it. Like the highlight of my night last night was realizing that the hard-boiled eggs I made actually turned out soft-boiled, and then I made ramen, and we had some leftover.
It's in my fridge. Homemade ramen with jammy eggs is in my fridge right now.
Yes. Like as soon as I saw they were jammy and my kids weren't going to eat them, and my husband and I looked at each other, we're like, we're making ramen. We're so
That's
excited.
how I use up my spinach. Is that how I use up your spinach?
Yes.
Oh, we are living the same life.
It's a little scary. So like we love food, and I don't want anyone to feel like food is evil or, oh, I can't eat that. That literally hurts my heart to tell someone that they can't eat something. And so this is why I work with the people I do, because I'm always trying to find ways like, here, yes, have this oatmeal cream pie or have this like Pop-Tart. It just works with my love for food.
And the word cheat does not have a positive association. You can't feel good about a day where you assigned yourself, I am cheating on my diet.
And it's not like you can just bounce back from a cheat day and go back to eating really, really well the next day. That's not how it works. I feel like there should be indulgence foods in everyone's life, but there should be a time and place and a quantity that would be appropriate, and to just move on from that.
So calorie deficit, I think we've covered this one, right?
Yeah.
Appropriate if you are attempting weight loss. And
Yeah.
you can be in a 250 calorie deficit or 1,000. There's a difference there.
I wouldn't recommend 1,000. Under fueling can be pretty dangerous. If you're eating like a 1,200 calorie diet, you're in a massive deficit and you're probably feeling really low energy and really poor. There's a lot of consequences to that. And so I think a little bit of calorie deficit temporarily can be really helpful, but it shouldn't be a long-term for everything.
What about this term muscle protein synthesis?
I think of it as like muscle building. So when you think of protein, when it gets digested, the little amino acids break up and then they get made into muscle fiber. And so it's like building on our current muscle, building more muscle mass.
Carb loading. Were you in high school when people did like massive pasta parties before
Yes.
track meets
Yes.
or like a soccer game? What is with the pasta parties?
I love them. I love a good pasta party. But carb loading is a little different now in my mind. So the object of a carb load is to fully top off and load up those muscle glycogen stores, because it doesn't help you necessarily go faster in your race, but it will help you go farther at your desired pace before you fatigue. If you've ever ran a marathon, most athletes, the wheels will fall off in the final 10K. That's where people will start to kind of hit the wall. They'll start to really fatigue. They'll slow down. And I find that you go in with a really good carb load and you fuel well earlier in the race. That's where that final 10K actually is where you pass people. You don't hit that wall. You feel really great. The recommendations are like 8 to 12 grams of carb per kilogram of body weight. So if someone does the math on that, it is a massive amount of carbs. It is overwhelming. So carb loading is not just a pasta dinner the night before. For athletes that are doing an endurance event that's going to be longer than, let's say, 2 hours, you might be doing like a full day event. So you have to start really early on in the day and you just kind of keep eating high carb foods all day long. You keep the protein and fat really quite low. That way you can get in enough carbs before you feel like you're going to be too full. And that's where sometimes you have to do multiple day, because some people can't take in 600 to 700 grams of carb in a day. So they might do a little bit lower range for a couple of days to really fully load those glycogen stores. You kind of show up on race day feeling like a puffed up chip bag because for every gram of glycogen that gets stored in your muscles, it stores about 3 grams of water.
Yes.
So it's pretty common to see your weight jump up 3 to 5 pounds in just water weight from that glycogen storage. But that's a good thing because you're going in nicely hydrated. You've got a good energy store. And then with a good fueling plan during that race to spare some of that glycogen to be able to use later on in the race, you feel pretty good start to finish.
I feel like I would be so good at that, but I actually have to like do an endurance race in order to justify it.
You know, it's not as fun as people think it is. The thought of it sounds amazing, but it gets old pretty quick. I mean, you could do like candy, like Swedish Fish or like Sour Patch Kids, like the really high sugar, low fat candies work well. I find doing some savory things like rice or even a little like vegetarian sushi that you can dunk in soy sauce. Yeah, it's good to have some different flavor profiles. Otherwise, you get really tired of the sweet stuff. But it's a lot, the carb loading.
Is that why you can hit a wall in the race because you're out of those stores of glycogen?
Yeah, it's like basically your body's out of energy. You feel really awful and you either like stop or slow way down in order to still function.
If you were then to eat during the race, again, like we're talking about marathon runners doing gels or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches I've seen on the side, how fast is it going to work?
With a gel, so if you're having straight up sugar, usually like 10 to 15 minutes, where you start to feel it. But once you get behind on nutrition, it's really hard to get caught back up. If you hit a wall and you take a gel, it's going to be a sufferfest for a while, and you're going to have to take quite a bit of carbs to get yourself to come back. I have this saying in endurance sports, you eat before you're hungry, you drink before you're thirsty, so that you don't get behind and have that kind of delay in performance.
Are there any other myths or misconceptions that you want to debunk?
Fasted workouts.
Okay, it sounds kind of miserable to me, to be honest.
Why would you torture yourself like that intentionally? So a fasted workout would be going into a workout basically in the morning after you woke up, not taking in anything. And
You're still fasting.
then trying to exercise during that. There's a belief that you are training your body to burn fat as energy, but you don't really train your body to do that. It's basically just being able to tolerate the suffering is my thought on it. Or you're just going at such a low effort that your body is not using quite as many carbs as it would be if you were running at more of a faster pace. But they've done the research and there really isn't any body composition benefit by doing workouts. So to me, I'm like, hey, let's enjoy these workouts. Let's get the most out of them performance-wise, because that's what's going to trigger your body to adapt and getting stronger and more efficient and have better endurance. So please, please, please go into your workouts well-fueled.
What should we avoid before we exercise? You talked a little bit about fiber. We know protein and fat kind of can slow things down. But what about, like, I have to poop. I'm running and I've only been on the treadmill for 5 minutes. Is this gravity? What's happening?
Okay, well, you're going to love this. The pelvic floor PT once used this saying. She said, motion is lotion, Alex. And I was like, oh my God.
Gross. Oh my God.
I mean, if you think about it, when we have clients or patients that are constipated, what do we tell them? Go for a walk.
Get moving.
Get moving. So a couple things that you can do, though every individual athlete is a little bit different in what's triggering this. So I'm just going to give some of the more common ones. One is, especially before a race, we will have our athletes, when they're carb loading, try and do a very low fiber diet to help reduce.
This is where the candy comes in, right? Like Swedish fish.
Fecal bulk. We want to reduce that. I also find timing of things, like if you are going to go out for a long run and you're going to have a little pre-run meal, I try and have at least an hour before I start the run, because sometimes when you eat, it kind of triggers your body like, oh, we got to move things along and make room for this new food. And so that allows some time for you to go take care of business and then start your run. Dehydration would be another one that can cause GI issues to happen pretty quickly. So make sure that you're staying hydrated enough. If you're having pelvic floor issues, go and see a pelvic floor therapist. They actually do wonders if you're really not able to like hold it in. That's actually not normal. Yeah. And there apparently are some people out there that can like poop on command. So they just go to the bathroom before a workout. I'm like, how does that?
No.
What?
No.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh gosh. Days notice, please. Okay. Don't stress me.
Right. So those are some of the main culprits. But in some of my sports nutrition books, there's entire chapters of GI issues with endurance athletes because it's so common. It's like 80 to 90% of endurance athletes have had issues with GI. So if you're dealing with it, you're not alone. I mean, I think every runner has some god-awful poop story that's happened. It's just like, you're part of the club. And I will say the more fit you get, usually the less occurrence there is. And also heat will increase the likelihood of it too. Like as we get to warmer weather, the GI issues just kind of start to happen. Like in the winter, you never hear about anyone having
Interesting.
And I don't know if it's like a evacuation response that the body has when it gets a little overheated. We're still a little unsure, but the heat definitely makes things worse. So you gotta be mindful of that. For me, when I used to do triathlons, if I traveled for a race, the evening before the race, I would go on what it called the colon cleanse run. I'd go for like a 2-3 mile jog. And that was all I needed to like go to the bathroom. And then I felt a lot better in the morning about not having any issues during the race.
Wow. What's your take on sports drinks, powders, shakes? What are they adding that we can't get from regular food and water? Electrolytes, I'm assuming, is going to be one. We've got protein, which you can get, but sometimes you need it to reach your goal.
I'm team protein powder for sure. No more than 1 scoop a day. Like if you're doing like multiple protein shakes a day, then I'm like, okay,
let's get you some food.
Yeah. Like if you're replacing your meals with protein shakes, that's not a good thing. It's supposed to just supplement your diet. So if you find you're struggling to meet your protein needs, especially with your schedule, it's a very convenient, easy option. It tastes great usually if you find one that you really love. And I'm okay with that. But then like electrolytes, I think are great. I think we're getting a little crazy with the sodium. There's some products that are really high in salt and people are drinking like multiple of them a day. And I'm like, this might be overkill. Let's look at your diet, see how much salt you're getting through your diet.
Yeah.
And then let's see how much you're sweating and how much you're losing in salt in your workouts. And then figure out, do you actually need all of this salt?
Have you seen this quote natural pre-workout, which is a tablespoon of honey, and a pinch of salt, which I'm assuming is like, okay, well, there's your carbohydrates and there's your sodium.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, anything with carbs and a little salt beforehand, like you just do toast and some jam and a little peanut butter, and you could call that nature's pre-workout. Even like coffee is good, a little caffeine boost. A lot of those pre-workout powders are just caffeine and some other things added to them. Honestly, you can make anything work. You don't have to call it nature's pre-workout. You can just call it food and good fueling practices.
I know there's not perfect math or, of course, research on this, but how do you feel about the saying weight loss is 80% diet, 20% exercise? What would be your math or breakdown of that?
Oh gosh, I don't even know if I could make a mathematical breakdown of it, because with body composition and weight loss, it's multifaceted, right? There's lots of different things that contribute to our body composition and our weight. It's not just what we eat and how we exercise. Sleep and stress should also be a part of the equation.
Agree.
Hormones should be a part of the equation. I don't really care for the eat less, exercise more phrase that you hear from everyone. I think it's way oversimplified, and it
completely agree.
Just leads people to eating as little as possible and trying to exercise as much as possible and then feeling awful.
Which doesn't make any sense.
And then wondering why they're not losing weight or why they're gaining weight. So to me, I find that weight loss and body composition for the athlete community has to be an individualized process. We have to look at the individual and figure out how can we help them see some weight loss while they still enjoy their life, can still eat like a normal person that works with their schedule. They don't have to do some like crazy restrictive diet that totally upends all of their life and they can't even achieve it for longer than 2 weeks. Let's build something that's sustainable, makes them feel like they're still eating like themselves, but they just feel better and have more energy and are able to complete their workouts and live life to the fullest. Building a structured plan that they can actually achieve long term, to me, is more important than any mathematical equation.
I could not have said that any better myself.
Carb loading is more than just eating a lot of pasta the night before a marathon. In fact, it can be a full-day event, or even last several days. You'll want to keep protein and fat intake low, and eat 8 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight. During the endurance exercise, keep in mind to eat before you're hungry and drink before you're thirsty, so you don't have a delay in performance. And remember, you can't cheat with your food. There's a time and a place for certain things. Finding the right eating pattern for you is an individual process, so be gracious with yourself and reach out to a professional if you need help figuring out your nutritional needs or why running gives you GI issues. Now let's talk about the risks of eating like an athlete and what to do when you hit a plateau.
If someone's already pretty careful about how and what they're eating, do you care about when? Are you into intermittent fasting? I'm more so hearing that you're having your clients eat more and eat more often. So does intermittent fasting just confuse that window?
Okay, so I call intermittent fasting randomized starving because I just don't understand it. I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you intentionally starve yourself? And for an endurance athlete community where eating disorders and disordered eating is very prevalent and a huge problem, yes, I feel like intermittent fasting is society approving a way for them to starve themselves.
And it could be triggering.
Yeah, because I have had a couple conversations with athletes over the years where they like bragged to me how many hours they fasted. And I was like, this is not healthy. And I told them, I cannot work with you. I think you need to talk with someone that is experienced with eating disorders.
Wow.
And she was like very offended, this one in particular. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I think this is something that is beyond my scope and expertise. And then it was like 6-7 months later that she messaged me and she said, thank you so much for this. She called it a slap in the face. I didn't realize how harmful this was to myself, and I've really been working on it, and I'm working with someone, and I'm in such a better place, and I was just so happy for her. So that intermittent fasting, like that's one of my number one reasons why I don't like it, is because it promotes that restrictive eating style. It's not great for people's relationship with food, but especially for someone that wants to be really active, it doesn't really support that lifestyle.
Sure.
And I think for someone that's very sedentary, has no interest whatsoever in exercising, I think that intermittent fasting based on the research can be helpful for weight loss, but it's not for everyone. It's definitely
Yeah.
not for someone that wants to exercise on a regular basis.
Do you feel the same about weighing food? When do we cross into potential disordered eating?
I don't have our athletes weigh their food. We use a food journal as part of our process. I find that the food journal can be a very nice learning tool for people because they can visually see how they're eating.
Mhm.
And we can look back on things like, oh, I felt really poorly in this workout. I'm like, oh, let's look back at your journal and see where maybe we went wrong and what we can do moving forward. So it's a nice learning tool. And the more that I know about how they're eating, the better personalized feedback and advice I can provide. But if they're like weighing out everything all the time, that's a little work.
Yeah.
And I feel like it can lead to some obsessive tendencies. And I want eating and food to feel really natural for people. So as they're journaling, I'm like, if you have no idea what portion size chicken breast you're putting in your salad or how much cereal you're putting in your bowl, like just measure it out so you can eyeball it in the future and know you're in the ballpark. Like, let's be intentional about how we're learning, but not like obsessive. And I've heard horror stories of some people that worked with like nutrition coaches that they were like, I had to bring a scale to a wedding and weigh out my food at a wedding. And I was like,
I'm dying
"What?
inside right now.
What?" I was like, never.
No.
That is such horrible advice. So
Yeah.
there's some really toxic things out there that are just more harmful than good. So if someone ever recommends that to you, do not take
Run.
that advice. Run away. And let's hone in on all the aspects of nutrition, not just be obsessive about being a certain number on the scale or a certain body fat percentage. Let's do it in the healthiest way possible.
How do you help your clients who practice vegan or vegetarianism, especially with getting their protein in and increasing their muscle mass?
I find that if, especially an athlete is going to eat vegan or just some version of vegetarianism, they should work one-on-one with a dietitian. I think it's just very important to make sure that they're getting all the nutrition that they need.
Mhm.
I'm not personally plant-based, but we certainly work with plant-based athletes. I think protein is definitely one, because sometimes with protein, especially some of those plant-based foods where they're trying to mimic meat, they can be really high in fat, or some of the tofu-based dishes can be really high in fat, and that can really bring your calories up very quickly, especially if they're wanting to improve body composition. That can be a little challenging. So we have to be really diverse with the protein sources, like make sure they're getting some protein through legumes and beans, maybe some tofu, like soy-based stuff. Some protein replacement products I think are great, but it doesn't have to be like the standard. I think it's a matter of being strategic to get enough protein, get carbs in a nice way. It's usually pretty easy to get plenty of fruits and vegetables with them, and just making sure that it's adequate and then fueling their workouts well too.
We, as dietitians, are obviously familiar with the concept of food as medicine, but are there certain foods we can target for recovery or cramping, inflammation? Do you have any magical foods for those concerns?
For recovery, it's all about reducing inflammation. So if you think of like anti-inflammatory nutrients or foods, I think of foods rich in omega-3s, like your salmon, your fish, flaxseed would be things that I would try and incorporate, or doing some sort of like omega-3 supplement. Tart cherry juice has some pretty good research on taking that in the evenings, helping with sleep, helping with recovery. But honestly, like just getting enough nutrition, getting in at the right time is going to have more benefit than trying to consume lots of some superfood.
When a client feels like they're hitting a plateau on a specific goal, are there any pieces of advice that you give them, nutrition or otherwise?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in a plateau myself with my own cycling training, and it's hard when you're in it.
It's frustrating.
And I have to remind myself, like, okay, if I were my own client, like, what would I tell myself? And consistency. Progress and results is never linear. I think that's really important for people to understand. And especially if for a while it has been a really linear. I've seen like really good gains in performance, or maybe you've seen body composition really decline nice and steadily. It's never going to stay linear. So you have to be prepared for some plateaus and not panic and not make some really like crazy drastic changes, right? Stay with what you've been doing, stay consistent with it.
Fight through that plateau.
Fight through the plateau, but don't go crazy and make massive amounts of changes. And I think it's certainly okay to be curious and maybe do a little food journaling. Say like, oh, is my protein like dropped recently? Or what's going on in my life? Is there more stress in my life right now? Am I not sleeping as well as I usually am? Are we kind of in a transition of seasons, which I think is kind of one of my reasons of why my body's kind of hit a plateau, is just the chaos of spring with kids and like the transition to like warmer weather. It's like, no, I got to stay the course. I'm going to work through this and I'm going to come out of it, but you can't freak out or panic. Stay with the plan.
Which is hard.
It is so hard. Trust me, I have been trying not to panic because I'm like, saw all of this progress all winter long. And then now I'm like, I've just been feeling more tired than usual. Something's going on. And I've just been talking with my team, like, any ideas? And they're like, sounds like just like mom stress, Alex. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. That I can deal with.
In addition to being a super mom, you're also an accomplished athlete in your own life. You've got your Ironman poster behind you. What are some of your favorite ways to fuel your exercise?
I like Pop-Tarts before a workout. Those are really easy. Or sometimes just some applesauce, especially if it's like early in the morning and I just don't have much of an appetite. I'll do like an applesauce squeeze pouch, my kids' favorite snack. I'm like stealing those. Sometimes I'll just do some sports fuel. Being a sports dietitian, I have a little bit of a problem collecting sports fuel. I'm like always ordering stuff and trying new stuff. So I usually just come down here sometimes and I just take like a gel or some energy chews. And I'm really liking gel-wise Morton gels, which are kind of pricey, but they're really
trendy right now.
They're amazing, but they're so expensive. That's like the number one downside of them. There's a newer brand called Carbs Fuel. They have 50 grams of carb per gel. It's a lot, but they're like $2 a gel. They're a bargain. Precision Hydration, I like their products too. I like Scratch Labs hydration mixes in my bottles on the bike. I don't like have one brand that I love over the other. I kind of like a lot of different products.
Alex, thank you so much for sharing all of your impeccable knowledge. I feel real motivated, one, to eat Pop-Tarts, but also to exercise. I'll have to earn my Pop-Tarts before I just go buy a box, but with frosting, please. Thank you for your time today, Alex. You are an awesome dietitian and friend and triathlete and mom.
Thank you.
It's great to be mindful of your diet. Just make sure to choose regimens that work for you and not ones that might trigger unhealthy relationships with food. A food journal can help you see patterns in how your diet affects your energy and workout goals. The same thing applies when it comes to plateauing. Keep a healthy mindset, be patient with yourself, and think of what might have changed recently. Have you had more stress than usual, or a different diet or sleep patterns? Remember, progress is never linear. You can always get back on that track, bike, or row machine tomorrow. That's all for this episode, but if you have a follow-up question, leave us a voicemail at 507-538-6272, and we'll answer it in a future episode. On the next episode of On Nutrition, nutrition during cancer treatment.
Something that to me or to you, Tara, might taste disgusting, it would taste wonderfully to that patient because it's much harder for them to taste things.
For more tips on eating like an athlete, check out Alex's podcast, Endurance Eats. And for more On Nutrition episodes and resources, check us out online at mayoclinic.org/onnutrition. And if you found this show helpful, please subscribe and make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. It really helps others find our show. Thanks for listening. And until next time, eat well and be well.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as medical or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for any medical questions. The appearance of any guest does not imply an endorsement of them, their employer, or any entity they represent. The views and opinions are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Mayo Clinic. Reference to any product, service, or entity does not constitute an endorsement of or recommendation by Mayo Clinic.